Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Andrew Yang and making the horse drink. All right, let's talk about it. Okay, so there's an old saying. It says you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. This common sense phrase, like many common sense phrases today, because our world has changed so much, is 100% wrong. You can absolutely make a horse drink. All right, so there are two jobs, right, with the horse and water, right? You can lead the horse to the water, and you can also make it drink, right? And what I want to talk about today is that second part, right? So first, let's define the first part. When it comes to Andrew Yang, if you're an Andrew Yang supporter, you are trying to get Andrew Yang elected, right? And frankly, I think everybody listening to this channel, I think you already know how to lead the horse to water. There's 4 traditional methods for leading the horse to water, doing the traditional work of getting a politician elected, okay? And I'll just list them. I'm not going to, give definitions on all of them. So you give money. That's a big one, right? You need to support the candidate. Money is a huge part of any modern election. It is used to buy advertisements. It's used to pay for top-notch election expertise. It's used to travel, right? It's used in a lot of different ways, and it's really critical, right? In addition to that, social media. This right here, doing social media content that ups the knowledge of the public about the candidate. Also, volunteering. So you can volunteer for a candidate, right? Very traditional, right? And last is voting, right? You vote, right? No matter what, you vote, right? Now, these 4, right? Giving money, social media, volunteering, and voting. This is the leading the horse to the water, okay? And we're going to do this for tons and tons and tons of people, right? Literally hundreds or thousands, right? And it's important. It's important work, right? But the reality is the vast majority of people who are into politics already know about that stuff. What I want to talk about today is making the horse drink, because I think this is important, and I think it's another level that true Andrew Yang supporters really need to think carefully about, and to identify your targets and monitor for your opportunities. So let's talk about it, because it recently happened to me, and I want to explain my situation, and also it triggered me to be very careful about this going forward, and to be really careful to watch for these opportunities as we come up to the April date when I can vote in the primaries for Andrew Yang, and of course, the November date when we're going to vote for in the general election for Andrew Yang. All right, so let's talk about that making the horse drink. All right, so recently I had a situation where basically I take notes like crazy. It's like a lifestyle habit for me. One of the best things I ever heard about note taking was I don't take notes to remember this later. I take notes to remember this now, right? Like note taking is like a life. It's like a life lesson for me, right? So when I watched the debates, I was taking notes on my computer, and about everything everybody was saying, and I was just like capturing it all, right? And so I took all my notes, kind of formulated them, and I posted them on Twitter and Facebook, right? And these were just J. Scott Garibay's notes on the debate, right? Now, a lot of times people ignore my notes because, just because it's very personal to me, right? But I like to, put them out there. So I did. I put them on Facebook, and one of my friends came on, and this friend is from an old church I used to go to. But we still hang out. We still talk a lot on Facebook, and we hang out a bit. I would say every 3 to 6 months we'll go see a movie together, or we'll get dinner together. Good friend, right? And actually, we were closer friends when we were more in proximity to each other when we went to the same church. But there's still goodwill there, right? So I put up my notes, and this guy comes on. He drops in, and he goes, "What's your thing with this Yang guy?" Right? He's like. Now, by the way, this guy's a Facebook dude, right? So I don't think he's ever seen any of my videos, right? And he's like, "What's your thing with this Yang guy?" He goes, "Why do you like him so much? I want to know." And then he kind of like really tasked me, right? By the way, be hyper aware when you're being tasked, right? So he's like, "I want to know why you like him, and what's his stance on economy, on healthcare, on immigration, on defense, and on there was one other item in there, right?" And I was like, I kind of like, so I read this response on Facebook, and I'm like, ugh, right? I'm not going to write, some 500 word to 1,000 word article for this guy to figure out why I like Yang. I already made a whole bunch of content sitting right there on my YouTube channel, right? So I was really, really, very tempted to be like, here's the link, listen to my YouTube channel, right? Like, but the reality is I really didn't feel it was right to do that because I'm personal friends with this person, right? And, this is a very public platform, right? I'm very fortunate to have many people who comment in the comments below, and I have some personal friends that I've grown from this channel, right? But the reality is it's generally a public platform, right? So I was like, ugh, am I going to write, I need to write a 500 to 1,000 word article defining why I like Andrew Yang and describing every single policy, right? And I was like, I don't want to do that, right? But the reality is I realized this is the making the horse drink, right? And let me define what the aspects of making the horse drink are, okay? So one, it's personal, right? So one, I did it, right? I did exactly this, right? I did all that work and put it up on Facebook, and the guy read it, and I know he read it. He's like, he just kind of goes, I'll think about this. That was his only response, right? It did not, it didn't like blossom a vote, right? And it took a lot of my time. It took I think a half an hour to 45 minutes. I just built this thing and posted it for nobody but this person, right? And and so here's the thing: when you're gonna make the horse drink, it's got to be personal, right? It's going to be inconvenient, and it's going to be time consuming, right? These are really specific things, right? And the reality is, the reason why I took the time to do this was I know this guy, right? And I know for a fact he's highly interested in politics, right? And I also know he is so jammed up right now. He is looking at this huge pile of candidates. He doesn't know which one, and he's sitting back, right? And I've caught some flack for him on Facebook because I have a candidate, and he's like, oh, Yang doesn't do this, Yang doesn't do that, right? And he's throwing darts, right? And he can throw darts because he hasn't picked anybody. So he gets to enjoy this perfect candidate that he's going to choose later but hasn't chosen now, right? And right now, he could just throw darts at everybody else's choices, right? And so this guy is really annoying from that perspective, right? But he's my friend, and I really think he's an excellent candidate to vote for Yang, right? So with all that said, I really had to give this a lot of thought and invest the time, right? And so I think that's the absolute key. That's the thing that's really important to remember is when you're going to make the horse drink, you have to make it personal. It is going to be a significant investment of time, and it is going to come at the absolute worst. It's not going to be convenient for you. It's going to be inconvenient for you, right? And I'm convinced, right, that if we're going that, all political wonks get the traditional four, right? You give the money, right? Volunteer, vote, do the general social media posts, retweet, right? All that stuff, right? That stuff's on rails. We all know how to do it, right? But this making the horse drink, right? We need to look for opportunities and say, I think this person, who I personally know, could be a good candidate to vote for Andrew Yang, right? And then say, I'm going to identify this person as a target, right? And you got to be really careful about this. You can't blow up your friendship or, just to get a vote. It's got to be a genuine thing. Like, if you're friends with somebody, there's a level of goodwill where they can say, okay, I'll listen to you about this, right? And so you can't overstay your welcome on it. You can't be strident, right? It's got to be very carefully balanced, right? And you got to be genuine about it, right? And so I think we need to identify targets in our mind. We don't tell that person, you're my target, right? You got, this is just a you secret, right? So you identify your target and you say, one of the layers of my friendship with this person is I want to get them into a position to vote for Andrew Yang, right? And I want to make sure that I have invested the time that they, a special amount of time, right? And the reason why you got to choose this very carefully is it's not scalable, right? This can only be done with a half a dozen people at most, right? And so at this point, I've laid the seeds, right? I've already given all the information this person needs, but I will follow that up. with, hey, let's go see that action movie. Hey, let's go to the diner. And when we go there, I'm going to give that person the opportunity to talk about politics, but it's not going to be the first thing I bring up, right? And so I'm laying the groundwork and I'm planting those seeds, and then I'm going to watch and wait, right? And wait for that time where I can invest my time and my energy, right? And I'm going to be willing to do it when it's not convenient for me. Understanding that the currency being spent to make this horse drink, right? That second part, right? Is like that time is spent well, right? And again, we can only do this for about a half a dozen people between now and November, right? Because it's got to be genuine, it's got to be carefully balanced, and it has to be done very, very carefully. So keep your fingers crossed for me, that I'm able to land this plane with this gentleman, and and bring in an Andrew Yang voter. And I feel very confident about it because I know this person is frustrated with this wide pool of candidates and really isn't seeing their champion right now. I see my champion, Andrew Yang. I'm a strong believer in his integrity, his wisdom, right? His love for this nation, his intelligence, right? And I need to get my excitement and just make sure that this person is aware fully of why that is. And I've got to identify, I have identified him, and now I need to monitor and look for opportunities to layer that work in to actually make that horse drink, right? Because I'm already doing the leading the horse to water part, but the reality is we're going to have to make the horse drink. And with as many Andrew Yang supporters, if each one of us are bringing in 3 to 6 people and really talking to them very personally, this could be extremely powerful. In my opinion, that's how you make a horse drink, right? What do you think? Do you think there's a better method than what I just defined? Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.